Well, my friends, time for another story. It's that time of day. I hope you're ready. I hope you're all snuggly. I hope you've got a cup of tea ready, cup of milk, or anything else you prefer to drink. And talking of drink, I will have a little sip of water, if you don't mind. Splendid. And let's find out what's in the box today. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? I wonder. Here we go. Oh, it's good and creaky today, isn't it? A rainbow. The symbol of hope. The rainbow. How beautiful is a rainbow? Well, my friends, this can only mean one thing, that today's story is Simon and the fish. You're probably thinking, why does rainbow only mean Simon and the fish? Surely it could be many, many stories. It could be, I think there's a Mexican story called the Rainbow Serpent. Well, today's story, you will find out about the rainbow, and it is definitely Simon and the fish, because I haven't learned the other one. So, are you ready? Are you steady? And are you a bright pink teddy? Good. I think I'll have one last sip of water, actually. I was practicing a new voice earlier on, and it made me go a little bit at the back of my throat. So here we go. Oh, and I tell you what, because this is called Simon and the Fish, I could take this hat off and put on my authentic fisherman's hat. Have you seen an authentic fisherman's hat before? It looks a bit like this. There we are. An authentic fisherman's hat. Hello. So, the life of a fisherman is very, very hard indeed. They have to do very long hours. Very long hours at sea. Sometimes days and nights go by. It's cold and it's wet. It's poorly paid, and it is, above all, dangerous. It is very, very dangerous indeed. Very easy to fall overboard or get eaten by a shark. And the waves can be so high, and it's a terrifying, terrifying job to do. Yes, I'd hate to be a fisherman. I would hate it. It's not so bad if you own your own ship, I guess. Yeah? If you own your own ship, you can get to travel places and maybe have holidays, so long as you don't mind the smell of fish. But I guess if you're a fisherman, you're probably used to the smell of fish. In fact, that's a point. Can fishermen actually still smell fish? Or does it just smell like fresh air to them when they're out on their fishing boat? But if you're a regular fisherman that doesn't own its own boat, his own or her own boat, when I say fisherman, I mean fisher person, but it's actually easier to say fisherman. Okay, so please don't write in angry letters. Fisherman equal sexes. Okay. But if you are a fisherman without you owning your own boat, life is tough. Life is tough and life is hard, and I have to say no life was harder than poor Simon's life. He was very poor indeed and very hard working, and he worked for an awful, awful captain. Captain Hagglefin. Oh, he was a salty sea dog if ever there was one. This man, Captain Hagglefin, he had salt water running through his veins. He had a shark's brain and a hurricane's heart. He was awful to work for. He was evil. He would just boss people around, and he wouldn't do any work himself. Yeah, he would just boss people around, whether it was night or day, let everyone do all the rest of the work while he just sat there and drank rum. And most of the time he would sleep in his cabin. But when he was awake, he would give out orders like nobody's business. Scrub the decks, mend the nets, splice the rope, stitch up that sail, pass me the rum. Glug, 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 glug. Quite often, a sailor might fall overboard, yeah. One of the fishermen might fall into the sea, and he wouldn't be bothered at all, Captain Hagglefin. He wouldn't bother rescuing the sailor. There are plenty more fish in the sea. Ha 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 ha! He would say, pass the rum. Glug, 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 glug. But if he was mean to all of his crew, he was the meanest to poor Simon. He hated Simon for some reason, and I'm not sure what it was. Probably because Simon didn't sound like a proper sailor or a proper fisherman to him. It wasn't what we would call, a nautical name. Yeah, the rest of his crew had names like Sharktooth Peterson, Crabclaw McGraw, Squidface Malloy. But Simon just sounded a little bit too posh for Captain Hagglefin. But poor Simon, he suffered all this abuse. He couldn't afford to leave the job. He needed that job because there weren't any other ships around and there weren't any other sailors to work for. He needed to work. He needed to support his family. But he was so poor, he held on to that job with his fingernails like that. Now one day, it was Simon's turn to look after the nets, yeah. While Captain Hagglefin just drank rum and slept in his cabin. Glug, 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 glug. And Simon knew that if he didn't catch fish that day, he'd be out of a job. Because basically, that's what happened. If the sailors or the fishermen didn't catch fish, he kicked them off. He actually kicked them overboard, yeah. He didn't just sack them, he just kicked them overboard. He didn't care if they could swim or not. So Simon knew he had to catch some fish that day, and several hours had gone by and his net was empty and he didn't know what to do. Oh, I wish I had a magic net like Khalifa. Do you remember that story about the fisherman and the genie? I wish I had Khalifa's magic net. I wish I could catch loads and loads of fish. If I don't catch any fish today, Captain Hagglefin, that horrible, horrible captain, he's going to chuck me overboard. I know it. Well, all of a sudden, his net felt heavy. Simon's net felt heavy and he thought, fantastic, fantastic. I finally caught the fish before Captain Hagglefin wakes up. And he pulled the net in, and inside the net was the most beautiful fish Simon had ever seen. And I have to say, Simon had seen a lot of fish. This fish was all the colours of the rainbow. It was gorgeous. And when he looked on this fish, it just filled Simon's heart with joy. The fish was all different colours. It was ruby red, awesome orange, yippee-eye yellow, gallant green, butterfly blue, incredible indigo, and palatial purple. It was beautiful. You're too beautiful to eat, said Simon. You're too beautiful to catch. I'm really sorry I caught you. So he opened up the net, picked up the fish, this beautiful rainbow fish, and threw it back in the water. But as he did that, the door of the cabin opened and there stood Captain Hagglefin, and he'd seen the whole thing. What do you think you're doing, you scurvy dog? You've lost your job. That's it. You're sacked. You're fired. And he kicked him in the backside, and poor Simon went overboard into the water. Captain Hagglefin didn't care if he could swim or not. Ha! Plenty more fish in the sea, he said. Glug, 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 glug. Well, luckily Simon was a good swimmer, and they weren't too far away from shore. So he started swimming through the waves, and at one point Simon was sure, while he was doing his front crawl, he was sure that same rainbow-coloured fish popped its head up, looked at Simon and winked at him. Then the fish swam off. Well, when Simon got home, things went from bad to worse. Simon was out of a job. Simon couldn't get any more work. The only job he knew how to do was to be a fisherman. And he had a family to support, but he had no money, and there was no food at all. And there were repairs to do on the house, and there were bills to pay, and he didn't know what he was going to do? And to make matters worse, one day, death came knocking at the door. Death. Death. Definitely death. No doubt about it. A cloak of black shadows draped over rattling bright white bones. Yes, death, all right. "Fear not, Simon," said Death. "Do not fear the Reaper. Ha, ha, ha. I have come here today to help you. Yes, I have come to help you. I will give you a cow." What? Thought Simon. Death bringing me a cow? That's a bit weird. But Death's bony hand was holding on to a rope, and at the end of the rope was a very, very smiley cow. "Yes, this cow will give you an endless supply of milk. Yes. And to tell you the truth, I'm getting rather sick of her. Her name, believe it or not, is called Ray. And she is really annoying because she keeps telling jokes about milk. She has a really annoying voice as well. And to top it all, I've just found out that I am now lactose intolerant. This cow, Ray, yes, that is her name, Ray, she will be yours for 7 years. And if you are lucky, and if you are wise, you'll become rich from Ray, the comedy cow. And after 7 years, I shall ask 3 questions, which must be answered correctly. If they are answered correctly, you can keep the cow. Otherwise, you must come with me." And Death disappeared in a cloud of stinky black smoke. Blech. Well, the cow looked at Simon and winked, just like that rainbow fish had done. And he said in, I have to say, an incredibly annoying voice, "Hey, what do you call a dinosaur made of cheese? Shall I tell you? Shall I tell you? Shall I tell you? Gorgonzilla." "Hang on," said Simon. "That's not a milk joke. That's a cheese joke." Oh no, no way. I would tell you a milk joke, but it's a bit cheesy." Well, I have to say, in spite of the terrible jokes that Ray, the cow, was making, Simon was quite relieved to have such a beast in his house. Well, not in his house. He didn't keep it in his house. He kept it in his barn. Yeah, because this cow produced the most magnificent milk he and the rest of his family had ever tasted. It was incredible. It was so creamy and warm and delicious. But I have to say, there's only so much milk a person can drink. So he and his family started producing butter and cheese. And they sold this at the market, and people went crazy for this. They went crazy. They thought it was the most delicious butter and the most delicious cheese they'd ever tasted. And they paid loads of money for this cheese and this butter and the milk as well. He sold the milk. And not before long, Simon and his family had enough money to open up a restaurant. Yeah, a restaurant. A cheese restaurant. Can you believe it? Yeah. The Quattro Formaggios, this cheese restaurant was called, and it sold mainly, as you can guess, pizzas and fondue. But it was a real hit because every Monday night they would have a cabaret where Ray, the comedy cow, told as many milk jokes as she could remember. I won't say any now because they are really, really bad. But yes, you've guessed right. The weeks turn into months. The months turn into years. And before he knew it, 7 years went by. Yeah? 7 incredibly busy years went by. In fact, Simon and the rest of his family had been so busy, he had forgotten all about that deal with death. Well, one evening, into the restaurant came loads and loads and loads of guests and a woman all on her own. Now, this woman was wearing a very, very pretty dress. She was a beautiful woman and she was wearing a very pretty dress, and the pretty dress was all the colours of the rainbow. Ruby red, awesome orange, yippee-eye yellow, gallant green, butterfly blue, incredible indigo and palatial purple. And she sat down all on her own, quietly, and just drank water. Yeah. I have to say, by the way, that this restaurant, although it sold loads and loads and loads of cheese, it didn't ever sell fish. No. He never wanted to see a fish ever again. And definitely not smell a fish. But anyway, into the restaurant were loads of guests and this lady, this beautiful lady in her rainbow-coloured dress. And as I say, she just sat there drinking water, and all the other guests, they came and they went, and everything was busy, and Simon was rushing around like a headless chicken, as they say, serving people their food, a bit like another Simon I know, who's always busy serving food. But anyway, eventually, at the end of the evening, just as Simon was about to go and chat to the lady in her rainbow dress, there was another knock at the door. And guess who it was? Yes, death. Definitely death. No doubt about it. A cloak of black shadows draped over rattling bright white bones. Yes, death, all right. Well, Simon, are you ready for the 3 questions? Yes, he is, answered the lady in the rainbow dress as she stood up and looked death in the eyes. And that is your first question. What? Death was incredibly angry. Is this woman going to do all the talking for you? Yes, I am, said the woman in the rainbow dress. And that is your second question. What? Said Death, and he was furious. And when Death gets furious, his eyes start to glow red, and that stinky black smoke comes out of his nostrils. Who are you? He said to the woman in the rainbow dress. Well, I am actually the Queen of the Fishes. Yes. 7 years ago, Simon saved my life. So now, 7 years later, I have come to save Simon's. And do you know what? That was your final question. Well, Death was absolutely fuming. But there was nothing he could do about this. He had been tricked. And he just disappeared in a cloud of black and stinky smoke. "Hard luck, Death," said Simon. And then Ray, the comedy cow, had to say, "Yeah, hard cheese." Well, that was the end of Sulky Death for the moment. The Rainbow Queen of the Fishes, as she most definitely was a queen, the Rainbow Queen of the Fishes simply walked out the restaurant, and as she walked away, she turned to Simon and she winked. And then Simon and his family and Ray the comedy cow, well, of course, they all lived happily ever after. Please take care, my friends. Look after yourself. Look after each other. Stay healthy. TTFN. Bye.